new study showing how climate change, specifically higher temperatures, is making our children more inactive and more obese. The study published in journal Temperature found today's children are 30% less aerobically fit than their parents were at their age. Fewer children are reaching the World Health Organization's recommendation of 60 minutes of exercise a day.
So I just woke up, my brain didn't fully kick in, I'm not thinking properly, and yet this is the type of news that I'm being exposed to. I'm being given psychic damage by the elder gods, which seem to be the people at the news station. It's very interesting. You know, maybe you should change the experts. Maybe you should try that. You don't need to be an expert with a lab coat and a peer-reviewed study in order to debunk this nonsense. Okay, so kids aren't going out because the weather is hot. Then how do you explain Africa? The weather is hotter there than here, and yet the kids still go play outside. What about the desert, like Qatar, Saudi Arabia? Why aren't kids getting fatter in states within the US that are hotter than the ones that are colder? Like, for example, in Alaska, everyone should be fit, but when you go to Las Vegas, everyone should be very chubby and massive corporeal manifesting themselves. Like, I understand that governments want more power and they want to tax people more and they want to have more surveillance and more direct influence into our lives. But can you at least have some logical sense in when you're trying to push these studies? Okay, here's another question. Why aren't pets getting fat? I mean, surely the temperature affects everyone the same, right? So why aren't the pets getting fat as well? Maybe, I don't know. Again, I'm not a scientist. I mean, you can't experience the world without being a scientist, and you can't have an opinion about things without being a scientist. And then even if you are a scientist, you have to be with the science consensus, right? It's not enough now to be a scientist. You need to be part of the consensus. And once the consensus is reached, it can never be unreached. But maybe, just maybe, is the technology, like, most kids like to stay indoors now because entertainment is different than what our parents had, where they had to actually go outside to interact with other people, and now you can do so on social media. You can play online. You can watch VTubers. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's the foods, which are now more fully processed foods. They contain more sugar, more addictive sugary drinks. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's the culture. Oh my fucking god, like, the progressives love to throw culture on everything. Video games are responsible for rape culture. Video games are responsible for racism. And for some reason, the body positivity movement isn't responsible for anything. Like, it's so bizarre. If someone has a cat or a dog and they become so obese that they're unable to walk anymore. So we're not talking like a chubby cat or a chubby dog. No, we're talking about the point where the pet is so overweight that they can't move. People will look at that and they will call it pet abuse, rightfully so. They will say, what is wrong with you? Take your pet to the vet, stop feeding it. It's not funny, it's not cuddly, it's not adorable. You're getting your pet sick, right? Like, isn't that what people would say? But if it's a person, which, again, it's not like a person that's chubby, but a person that literally cannot walk anymore, well, you're not allowed to say anything about that. You're not allowed to criticize that person's lifestyle because it's not politically correct. And it's like, okay, but like, that has consequences. That is going to have consequences. Like, when I grew up, I remember my parents would criticize other parents which had kids that, again, like, they were so overweight that they came up with a health issue package. And it wasn't just my parents, but like, everyone would criticize. It's like, well, look how they're raising their child. Like, they don't invest themselves when it comes to that child's upbringing, to the food that they're giving, to the exercise. Like, why are they sending their child to play some sports? Like, it was viewed as a negative thing. Now it's not. Okay, fine. You know, like, you can make the argument, because, again, like, the scientists, the studies, they will say, well, yeah, but like, criticizing people's lifestyle isn't going to help them change. And then the question comes, it's like, so why is the left calling people racist, sexist, and bigots then? Because like criticizing people's lifestyle, according to the studies, isn't going to get them to change. So which one is it? Either the studies are wrong, so criticizing people gets them to change. In other words, you still need to call people sexist, racist, homophobic bigots in order to help them understand and change. Or criticizing people doesn't work, in which case you shouldn't criticize them. But like you just notice these discrepancies that aren't accounted for. And again, like the study which shows, oh well, is the higher temperature, and because of that people do not go outside. Do you account for the other discrepancies? And again, like I personally do not know of many kids that are like, okay, well, we're not going to go outside. Why? Because it's hot. Also, you can't go to a gym with air conditioning. Is it hot in there? But not only that, like, when I grew up, there were also high temperatures. And sometimes there were cold temperatures. And you didn't go outside. But you went outside during the night. You went outside during the morning. You went outside when the weather would become warmer during the winter. Like, you still manage to find out time windows where you would go outside. Like, for example, 40 degrees Celsius. That's hot. Okay, like that is the weather where if you allow a pet to go outside, it's going to hurt its paw on the concrete. It's literally going to burn your pet's paw if you allow it to go outside at 30 degrees Celsius. I need to mention this for Americans because they use bizarre temperatures. So you don't go outside if it's that hot. Fine. But during 7 p.m., 8 p.m., you do go outside. And you probably had a lot of pent-up energy, so you played more physically engaging sports. But what I find also interesting is that they're not blaming the pandemic measures, where it's like, okay, so the hot weather is preventing people from going outside, but when the government itself is preventing people from going outside, when the government itself is saying that gyms are not an essential activity and they're shutting down every place where people can make some physical workout, oh no, like, we're not going to blame that. Even though, like, that lasted an entire year, even more in some places. And the depression, which adds, like, isolating people and telling them to stay to their homes, like, that also adds a physical burden and a psychological one. Oh, no, like, that's fine. You know, we're not going to blame that. Oh, it's the weather. Oh, yeah, like, Sky Daddy is angry. I see. Very, very interesting. Holy shit. So even people in the comment section, you know, like they're not buying this. Like there's blue check marks that are pointing out like this is absolutely ridiculous. There was another person which agreed with me apparently. It's like your COVID hysteria, which again the televisions pushed. Look at this. I exercised for hours in 100 and plus degrees weather, 90% humidity when I was growing up in South Carolina. Maybe it's the screen time or your COVID hysteria. No, it can't be. I'm going to be honest here, and even the people on this talk show at the talk table, even they say, yeah, this is kind of ridiculous what the scientists were saying. So at least there is some hope for humanity when even the press is looking at something and they're like, yeah, they may be scientists, but I think they may be wrong. You know, like using your brain to figure out common sense. Let me know what you guys think, though. And I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.